One thing a lot of people ask me is, how do I get a service dog? And there's several ways that people go about getting a service dog, but there's a few things you have to understand first. And that is that a service dog is trained specifically to mitigate a disability. Now, you may have a medical condition, but it doesn't necessarily become a disability just because you have a medical condition. And only really talking to your doctor can you understand if you are actually, in fact, disabled and qualify for a service dog in that way. That being said, a prescription from a doctor is not necessary by law for a service dog. Just the fact that you have a disability and that the dog is trained in a task that specifically mitigates your disability. There's a few different things that people do to get a service dog. And the traditional one is going through an organization. And these are organizations that take dogs and train them usually from being puppies. Sometimes they breed these dogs and have programs for that. Sometimes they get them from shelters. And they take these dogs and train them. And service dog training, depending on what the dog needs to do, can be anywhere from 18 months to 3 years. So it's quite an intensive process. Some of these organizations have free dogs for people with disabilities. Some of them will charge a fraction of the cost because raising a service dog and training it can cost, depending on the dog, anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000. So some of these organizations will make you fundraise toward that or have other obligations to help contribute towards the cost of this dog. One of the downsides of organizations, even if they're free, is that they sometimes have wait lists that can be 2 years, 3 years long, shorter or longer. I personally haven't gone through an organization. I own or train. But that's one option, is through an organization. And with that, you generally don't get to pick your dog's breed. Most commonly used dogs are retrievers or labs, or some places use poodles or mixes of any of those. Others will get them from shelters, so it's kind of, you don't necessarily get to pick your breed of dog. Another form is by going through a private trainer, and this can be more expensive. And that's where it's pretty self-explanatory, working with a private trainer to accomplish those goals. Another option that many people elect to do is called owner training, and there's several advantages and disadvantages to this. With owner training, you're in charge of all the training of your dog. This is choosing the breed, choosing the individual dog, choosing the tasks, even things that you might not think about, like what language your dog is going to be trained in. Some dogs are not trained in English. Some are trained in non-standard hand signals. So you have a lot more freedom of choices when it comes to owner training. That being said, if you don't have dog training experience, you can anticipate it to be very difficult because you're going to have to learn how to train on top of teaching the dog. And it's often helpful for owner trainers to do kind of a mixed method with the assistance of a professional trainer to help them keep on track, because you need to keep training logs and like video records of proofing, all sorts of documentation, so that if you ever go into a court of law and there's a problem, you can prove that indeed your service dog is a service dog. Now, in the United States, there's no such thing as certification or registration that's needed anywhere. Some countries outside the United States require a certification by ADI or other kinds of credentials, but that's not required within the United States. So, one of the things you don't want to do is go online and shell out some cash for a piece of paper that says your dog is certified or registered or has ID or whatever the case may be, because that is not going to make your dog a service dog. What it is going to do is when you walk in to a business and insist on being let in with a dog that is not a service dog legally, you can be charged with criminal trespassing. So you can get yourself in a jam. So just don't do it. You have to go one of the legitimate routes that I've talked about. Another problem with owner training is that many dogs are not suitable for work in public, be it temperament issues. Some dogs just don't want to work for service dog work. If they're aggressive, dog reactive, have health problems, anything like that, you stand a chance as an owner trainer of investing a lot of emotion and a lot of time in a dog to discover that in 6 months, a year, 2 years, that the dog is going to wash out. And then you're stuck with the decision of, do you get rid of the dog and get a new dog for a service dog and start over, or do you just not try again? And that can be very difficult on an owner trainer, which is something that you don't necessarily face with a program dog.